noisy.
No, then I get tired.
No. Very good.
We have a guest with us.
I'm Thea. My pronouns are she, her. I am good at puns and replacement lyrics for existing songs. None of those are useful in real life, but I'll do them anyway. Happy to be here.
Our topic today.
And that's why we have a guest with us today, because she's an expert on inclusive language.
I absolutely am not.
We have an expert with us in inclusive language.
You're now the expert. I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm hard to collect them, so it's going to be very interesting to hear what you guys are like thinking and saying about it.
But I think that is...
What I just said, you guys.
Oh my god!
Good catch! It's actually an example of an exclusive language, which is the opposite of inclusive language.
And you say you guys to everyone.
You know about that feeling that you just described, about that you're not that sure how to tackle the... I think that's a very common feeling also. For even of us, I think all of us would probably be fine saying that we are members of the queer community.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, but even within the queer community, I think it's a topic that sometimes you really don't know how to address it also.
No.
That you don't know also what is the... Sometimes you wonder what is the right thing to say, or sometimes you wonder like if you are being as inclusive as you could be while you're talking.
I think sometimes, or a lot of times actually, inclusive language comes across as performative, as like appearing woke, quote unquote. Like you are using the right words to seem like you are on the level, like you're a good person, you're keeping up with the stuff you're carrying, but really it's all a performance.
For example, here also in this conversation, we're not going to go down to linguistics at all, because this is not a linguistic issue that we are dealing with. It's actually a social language thing that we are discussing. I mean, it's how we use language.
But isn't that what linguistics is?
To a certain extent, yes, but I would say also that you find also the other argument of saying like, well, the problem with inclusive language is that it goes against, for example, the rules of the language. That some people would actually, particularly on the more conservative side, would say that.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. That's I would like to get to that, but
we can get to
not
that.
time.
You said like what we're talking is that we put forward a particular way in which we want to be perceived, or a particular identity also, and I think that makes also the language increasingly politicized the whole time, right? On both, on any side of the equation.
So I think we get going.
What have you done?
So what I'm gonna talk now about, continuing about what I've just done, saying the words, for example, you guys. We're using also in Swedish like a lot of words or sayings that are male.
The masculine is neutral.
Yeah, the masculine is neutral. For example, you say man ska inte, and man means man in Swedish, man. But it also means, generally speaking, how can you explain that?
In English we have the generic you.
Yeah.
Like you don't do X.
Exactly.
And in Swedish we have man gör inte X, which would literally translate as man does not do X.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
you could also use in English one, for example. One does not do that.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's neutral.
Yep.
Neutral in both ways.
But in Swedish we only have man.
Well, we have N.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So I try to use N instead of. It comes very hard for me to start de-learning that. When I'm writing, it's so much easier because then I can think of it.
Yeah.
But my question to you, do you think that these things matters if you say one or man?
Well, I mean, I think it normalizes a view of people as more than just men or not men. And that is something we see also in queer spaces, where often separatist spaces welcome icke-men, non-men, which is not an identity. It is the absence of an identity. It's everyone who doesn't agree with this label, which is just like, so the default is still this label, and everyone who distances themselves from it is welcome.
But I have to ask also, if we go a little bit one step further than that, so a word in Swedish, for example, like humanity, mänsklighet.
Yeah, but you have that in English too, humanity.
Yeah.
And history.
I know, yes. But then that's what I'm asking. Do we need to take that next step also?
And exactly. And my question was also like, because for example, I have never, before I heard this debate, heard that man, in this case in Swedish you, that it would be associated to a man. I've been just seeing it as a neutral word.
And I think that's true for a lot of people, but not for everyone. And I think there's value in moving away from that. I don't personally think that we need to move away from the part of man within a larger word, like mänsklighet, like humanity. Those are not words built up around just that part. That's just like, you can't spell X without Y.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think that in the word Swedish man, like when you say one should, man ska, like that should be replaced with N?
I think we could benefit from moving away from that. I don't think we should be forcing anyone.
But in what way would it benefit? That's what I'm also wondering. That people feel more included.
I think so. And I think it's easy to feel like the default of humanity is man.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe that's the thing why I've never even analyzed this, because it's so normalized.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
that's-
Because I
maybe
think
that's-
sometimes we forget the power of language also in the sense like, I mean, language is very powerful and it can be also to certain people, it can be very empowering, but at the same time, it can also create the conditions in which some people get particularly erased from the way we talk. That is the thing. So, I'm gonna throw out the next question, whoever wants to answer, and the question is, what have you seen?
I could go meta. Do you want me to go meta?
Go meta.
Go
All right.
meta, whatever that means.
These questions are not inclusive.
So
That is
Kind of.
actually very true.
that is
Because
so
we don't
true.
all see, we don't all hear,
That's very true.
we don't all read.
So true.
Yeah. But everyone in this conversation does.
Yes.
Yes,
So-
and it is what we have seen.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So I don't think
Because it's just a conversation between us.
so.
We also were thinking about this because we had, if you haven't seen it, go and click on it. We had a presentation at Pride. So please go and click on it. And someone asked us why didn't we have teckenspråk tolk?
Oh yes,
Sign language.
a sign language interpreter.
Exactly.
That's a good question.
Exactly.
Fuck. I can say what I've seen.
Yeah.
And on Pride, you know, we got these headsets, and I was like joking to the volunteer there that, oh, but we don't need this because it's so less audience. And then they were like, no, but it's because of the
If
people
someone
would
has
have
a hearing
aids.
disability.
And I felt like,
they're-
yeah,
yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
of course. But it's just again like how
It's easy to
how
forget
you
the things we
take
don't
your
experience.
privileges so just for granted. And also another thing I've seen is stockings being called hudfärgade.
Yep, that is often racist.
Yeah, that is a
coded.
very big
What is
problem.
that in English? Like, do you call-
Skin-colored
color.
stockings. Yeah.
Skin-colored
See-
stockings.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, I think they're usually branded as nude in English.
Nude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's also
it's the same thing. It's
You know
coded.
what's the thing? A super common thing with that? Band-aids.
yes.
If you go to the pharmacy to buy band-aids and it says skin color.
Which skin?
Exactly.
I have seen Pride very recently. So we have been experiencing Stockholm Pride. It was a different one because of the pandemic, of course, so a lot less crowds and everything. But still, to me, Pride has always been one of these places in which you can actually find that. Actually, almost what we have been discussing also. I mean, those moments in which it's very easy to flow in conversation where people just tell you like, you know what, that's not okay for me. And I think I have found, to me personally at least, that is the space in which I have seen that flow a lot easier than any other space I usually live in. I mean, at work and at home, of course, like we are very open on how we discuss things. But I mean, I think more in like a public space, I think that is precisely where I have seen more and more where it's easy to have those conversations. And I really hope that could extend more outside from Pride also. I mean, this idea that it's just okay to just go to another person and tell them like, you know what you say right now, that's not or I don't feel okay with it, for example, or how you refer to me, I don't feel okay with it. And usually when you see those interactions happen, because you see them a lot in Pride also. And to me, Pride has always been a sort of like a learning thing also, because it really has allowed me to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different communities within the LGBTQ plus community. And the fact that usually everybody, I'm not saying this is the case, I'm sure there might be also frictions and stuff going on.
Of course.
But I mean, I think the easiness with which it usually happens to me is very telling also. And this is part of the things why I usually love Pride so much also, in the sense of like, you can have those conversations very easily. And I think that probably we should also think a little bit more as a community on how we start exporting that.
Yeah, that definitely. Can I?
Yes.
I'm gonna be more of a downer, and I'm sorry
Please.
about that. I have seen a severe lack of intersectionality, which, for those who don't, that's a big academic word. I know. I'm not an academic myself.
Yeah.
But it is one that gets criticized a lot. Basically, it means that you see how things overlap. For example, there is a marginalization of people of color, and there's a marginalization of people of queer people. And if you are a queer person of color, you're here. You get both, and you get new things that neither of the other ones get. And that's something that we often fail to recognize, and that I feel like that Pride often fails to recognize, and most of all shine a light on. Because Pride, for all its beauty and like work towards progress, fails to see the things beyond queerness. And I use queerness as an umbrella term. I hope that's okay. That's just my preferred term. That like it's all about the queerness, and nobody cares about race or disability or all of the other things that I am probably clumsily excluding because I don't think of them right now. And it's just so unfortunate and so excluding.
I can see that, of course, and I agree with you at the general picture, of course, in the sense of like, we have been talking about visibility here.
And I am not trying to say that Pride is bad.
No. I've been saying before in several videos that what I love the most about Pride is the contradictions within Pride. In the sense of like, I agree with you also in the general picture, because we have been in the end discussing visibility here also, in the sense like we, even with language, that language has the power to invisibilize. And I know also that, of course, Pride also has a language, both verbal and visual, right? And that visual language of Pride is also problematic to a certain extent.
Yes, sometimes.
Exactly.
And I feel like Pride also sort of neglects its power to empower.
Yes.
Because it could help in a such broader way than what it does.
And I mean, you know, I keep mentioning the whole time LGBTQ plus, and usually when it comes to the visibility of Pride, then it's LGBTQ plus.
Yeah, I've
right?
seen the image. I know.
Exactly.
That's
right.
why I just use queer.
Exactly.
Queer is an umbrella. It covers everyone who wants to be under.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been discussing that also. That we love also the umbrella term queer, and yeah, even if we both define ourselves as pansexual, but I mean we really embrace also the word queer as our identity is also.
Yeah.
But I do think that while that is true also, that there is a lot of problematic sides also of the general language, both visually and spoken language in Pride. I do think that, at least I was just talking about my own personal experience. In my own experience while being there, I'm not talking about the big picture with all what usually is also portrayed in media and so on, but I'm just talking of it as the space when I am there also. That is a space where I have felt always very comfortable listening and also looking at other people while they have those interactions, right? And I know that while you're having those interactions, it might be harder for you, as you said. For example, if you are if you come from someone that is having certain disabilities or handicapped, right?
And
if you are a person of color, if you are from a non-well-developed economic background also, because of course
Marginalization happens on a lot of angles is the wrong word. There's a different word, I can't think of it.
Sides.
Well, anyway, I think good enough to understand.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's true. I mean, it's like, that's also true. Everybody expects you to show up at Pride looking in a particular way, right? Mm-hmm. That's also true.
Oh, yeah.
And that costs money, right?
That is where, I mean, so getting personal for a second. Mm-hmm. I get anxiety every Pride week.
Yes.
I get intense anxiety and I feel like I'm not visible enough, that I am betraying the cause of fellow queer people. And then there's the parade, and I feel
In
like
which way do you feel that you're portraying?
because I'm not visible enough. Because I'm not a representative. I'm not part of it.
In what way are you not presentable? In like the stereotypical
so,
way that you should be.
I am revealing all my personal info, and this is like none of this is secret. It might not be interesting to your viewers, and that's fine. But I started hormones in October last year. This is my first Pride with tits. This is my first Pride with a body that feels right for me. And so every previous Pride, I felt like I'm just like hiding at home, or if I'm out, I'm just like, I don't know, a fitted t-shirt and a flat chest. That's nobody sees that and goes, that's a woman, except if they're except if I'm lucky, basically.
But that's also fucked up, if I may say it, that it shouldn't go that you have to.
Gender is performance.
Yes.
Yes, all gender is performance.
And that does not invalidate it. Just like we have this common idea that if something is a construct, it's not real, which is a simplistic reading of that. Like, of course it's real. We constructed it.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it less real. That's the thing.
Exactly. Yeah, we built this thing, and now it's here.
Yeah.
Like, gender is a construct, but it's a construct that we made, and it's real, and we live with it.
Exactly.
And we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
What have you heard?
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm taking over. Sorry.
You're not taking over.
Sure.
You're doing your.
Stop me if you can.
Next episode, what have you done with Jorge and Thea?
I feel that there's some anger.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. There's a cat fight going on here.
Cat fight.
Is cat fight
inclusive?
I think so.
That's a good question.
And I actually heard two different podcasts about inclusive language because I also felt a little bit unprepared for this discussion. Yeah. So then I searched one. I found one Swedish. I forgot the names of the researchers that were discussing this, but it's the program is called Språket and it's in.
That's on P3, right?
Exact. That's on P3. Exact.
So that's public radio.
Public radio in Swedish. So, where they were discussing also their own research perspective on inclusive language, but I would say one particular issue that I actually got from that podcast was the fact that they were saying something very close to what you were mentioning before, the fact that inclusive language has become also a matter of political identity, right? And then
alignment.
Exactly, yeah, and therefore, that you use it and while you're using it, you want to show who you are the whole time, and at the same, but that happens also in any side of the political spectrum, also.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that creates also a sort of resistance, I would say, on both sides, because it creates also almost like, if I kind of lean on to what you're saying, then I'm giving up my political values.
But that's also true for language that is not like specifically inclusive.
Yeah.
Like even just like between. I'm trying to think of a neutral here. There's nothing neutral. Neutrality is a myth. So I'm sorry that I tried to go that route, but like, if you're referring to gay people as faggots, for instance, that is conveying your values for language.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not just inclusive language, because calling gay people faggots is not inclusive.
Because I have heard also of some, for example, podcasts and so on, of particularly gay podcasts, that they have been actually taken out from Spotify for using the word, the F word. I'm going to say
because
now.
they have
No,
a
but-
mindless filter, right?
Exactly. That's what I mean. Because I mean, we're talking about a bunch of queer people using it in probably a cheerful way.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I mean, the filter just takes it as...
Doesn't understand context.
Exactly.
Because it's a machine.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. I have another side to my answer, which is the second podcast that I listened. This was actually a podcast in Spanish. So this was a podcast that I usually follow called Ningún Chile Te Embona. So, hi guys, I know that they always watch us. No,
Can
they
we put the
don't.
names of
I listened to this Spanish, it's a Mexican podcast called Ningún Chile Te Embona. It's a queer podcast also. And they were discussing also inclusive language. And there was one, they had also a person that they invited to discuss it with. If I'm not wrong, his name is Angel Candia. I might be wrong, but anyhow, I just want to bring forward here one description that he did with inclusive language that I thought it was actually quite nice, because he said, language is just a tool for communication. That's all it is. And using inclusive language is like if you were, for example, a painter, and if you have, for example, a palette of colors in front of you. If you are not using inclusive language, or you're not willing to do it also, you are actually also limiting your possibilities of colors. So you're only painting with a limited availability of colors for you. But if you open up to say, like, I'm going to think about this and I'm going to pay attention to how I say things, then you're opening up to a really larger palette of colors, which might end up in a lot more beautiful final picture. And I actually thought it was a very good analogy.
that's wonderful.
Exactly. That it really shows exactly what we were trying to say at the beginning also. That it's just like giving visibility and like opening those little spaces there for people that have been invisibilized by language also.
Exactly.
But I think it's cool also to think about language as something that you're using the whole time. Because we just literally, I mean, we use it automatically. But it's actually I think it's almost a beautiful thing when you start thinking of it. It's actually a tool that you're using to portray and actually portray your own reality the whole time.
And that's so, like, also those who are against like language moving forward, they think, but then you cannot say anything. They see it at the opposite.
Yeah.
They usually see it like, at least what I've heard from the opposites of this inclusive language, like that you shouldn't use the word they in a singular in Swedish, like you should use han eller hon, like that, because they think it's more limiting.
Yes.
But you should see it as that is actually opening up more.
Exactly.
Of course, it's a larger box of things to work with. Like whatever you're doing, you can choose to use han or hon if you want to. You can also choose to use hen. It's an addition. It's not a limitation.
It can be shown that it's the actual opposite. It's actually open up for the possibilities of the language to achieve its real potential to portray everybody.
And I think we are at so beginning of learning to use the language the correct way. Or not correct way, but the right way, that we could actually...
You know what I also think about that? It's like, I think we have a lot of sensitivities. I think because of the way in which politics are being set up right now also, that everything tends to be so sensitive and like people are so strong in their own political identities and so on, that I think everybody's always so ready to start a fight about in the sense of like, for example, if someone tells you like, oh, well, maybe don't call me this, but call me that. And a reaction that you could hear is like, oh, are you calling me a sexist? Are you calling me a racist? Are you calling me a homophobe?
But that is such like typical, and forgive me for using a phrase that is particular to like race here, but that's such an extension of white fragility. It's where you've always been in the majority position of the stuff, and then suddenly you're asked to consider other people.
Yeah.
And you never had to do that before.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Where's my privilege going? I'm being constrained. And it's actually not constraining, it's just opening up for other people.
Yeah.
Who have been constrained by you. Bitch.
Yes, so now we have to move on.
Did you drop it?
No,
You lost it.
I didn't. Maybe you took it out.
What have you read?
I have read Das Kapital by Karl Marx.
Oh my god.
I would like to sum.
My hips don't lie, read my body language.
My favorite socialist writers of today is Slavoj Žižek.
No, nyt ollaan
And
hiljaa.
I disagree
Ihan
with him
oikeesti.
on almost everything he
Nyt
says, but his sense of humor is really good.
That's perfect.
One joke that he says that if you go, that he goes into a Soviet, oh my god.
Don't talk about socialism right now.
Going to a Soviet coffee store and you ask for, oh, I want a coffee, but without cream. They tell you, oh, we don't have cream. We have milk, but we're also out of milk.
Korkan,
So I cannot serve you a coffee without
you
cream.
realize sometimes
I can
how
only
much you're
serve you a coffee
talking?
without. No, I cannot serve you a coffee without cream. I can only serve you a coffee without
Okay.
milk.
Korkan can talk a lot about what have you read. So
Yes.
No, I have a
Just
very
feel-
specific.
What have you read?
What have you read? Is it a question to me specifically?
Yes.
I have a specific answer about an Instagram post from Quinn.
Queen!
No, not Quinn the group, but Quinn, the footballer. So in the last days, I've been watching the Olympics. They just ended. I've been watching the Olympics like crazy. And you know that Sweden lost in the gold match against Canada. But that has, for us, a silver lining in the end because Canada had the first openly non-binary person in the team that
Really?
became a gold medalist. Yes.
Well, cheers to Quinn.
Exactly. The thing is that they have been the first gold medalist in Olympic history, openly at least, right? And of course, they are part of the women's team, which is also showing a little bit of the structural problem with the Olympics, because of course in the Olympics there is only
Men and women.
men and women's team,
Yeah.
right? So they are part of the women's Olympic team. They won the gold medal, so they have to be doing something good with the sport. But what I found is in their Instagram account, they have a post about coming out. And I just wanted to share this because it actually comes across with some of the things that we have been discussing here also. So they write, coming out is hard. I know that for me it's something I'll be doing over and over again for the rest of my life. And this is something that we discuss in our coming out
Exactly.
episode. That there is no one coming
No.
out, it just keeps coming
It's
out.
forever.
Exactly. It happens every time you meet someone new and in every single new situation that you are at life. I have lived as an openly trans person with the people I love the most for many years, and I wonder when I'd come out publicly. Then they mentioned something about how Instagram being a weird space for coming out. But what I wanted to point out is the fact that they say, so I want to be visible to queer folks who don't see people like them on their feed. I know that this saved my life years ago. I want to challenge cis folks to be better allies also. This is a process and I know it won't be perfect, but if I can encourage you to start, then it's something. So they give 5 points that they think it's important for you to take into consideration when you are, I think it's not only social media, but in general, basically. Point number 1, and this is the question that you asked also. Number 1, put your pronouns in your bio. So number 1, always put your pronouns in your bio. And this is why we know that they refer to themselves as they, because it is also in their Instagram bio that they refer to they, them.
I just want to mention, as an aside to this, that it's super helpful when cisgender people put their pronouns in the bio as well.
Yes.
Because it helps normalize it.
Exactly. It says, practice using gender-neutral pronouns either with your friends or even in front of the mirror. And to me, it really, because
Normalize it.
yes, because we can actually be honest with that also. We had a personal discussion about this.
Yeah,
between
that was
us
part
also.
of our earlier in this episode, like
Ah.
where we're talking about man versus n. Just like get used to n.
Exactly. Yeah.
For some people, that's helpful.
And I think, we actually can be super honest because we have mentioned this before. It's like, your partner, for example, they use, of course, the pronoun they, right? And we have mentioned this even with them also, that, yeah, it's understandable that for some people using they as a singular, it just feels weird. It's just a matter of practice, basically. So it's like, if you don't have a group of queer folks that will push you to it, you can do it by yourself also. I mean, just like
Practicing.
exactly, just practice. Like
If they're not pushing you, you should be pushing them.
exactly. Exactly. So I thought that was a very interesting point. That is like, I mean, if you're not used to those pronouns, just practice and that's it.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is so the last point that we have here is catch yourself making assumptions about other people while you're in public, while you're in bathrooms, and where you're in any space, basically.
That's true.
And I think that is actually so important because we have been saying here that it's also it's nice to be open for someone else and just listening to what those other people tell about what you have said or anything. But I think this also reminds us that it's not only about someone else saying, but it's also you consciously doing the whole time. So it's you listening to yourself and then reflect on what you're saying.
Yes.
I mean, it comes a little bit also with the sort of idea that we were mentioning about the palette of colors also. What kind of picture you're putting forward when you're talking, right? And it's just reflect on that picture the whole time. It's like what is the painting that you're presenting for other people?
What painting do you want to paint?
Exactly. And what
want
painting
it
you
to
want
be boring, or do you want it to be beautiful?
and what painting do you want other people to see also,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, while you're doing it
Yeah,
the whole time.
exactly.
So it's like it's just a call there to you to just catch yourself while you're talking. So listen to yourself and reflect on what you're saying. I think that last point was actually very telling there. It's like it's not only about other people telling you, it's you listen to what you're saying the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, existence is a performance.
Yeah.
We're always, I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I just assume
Yeah.
that we're always trying to be our best in front of other people. We're trying to be the person we want to see, the person we want to be seen as. And it's easy to fall into not critiquing ourselves and just sort of
Pointing
relying.
fingers at others.
Yeah. And even if we're like perceiving ourselves as good about this stuff, only seeing what other people point out. But sometimes it's important to look back at yourself.
Absolutely.
And you can see things that you didn't notice in the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure I've said some things during this episode that were maybe not as thought out as I thought they were in the moment.
No. But we can always
Edit them.
Learn.
But the fact is that no one is perfect, and that doesn't mean that we should just no one is perfect, that you just let me be. No, it means that no one is perfect. We can always involve, because that's the beauty of us humans.
Yeah.
That we can actually involve.
Nothing is binary.
No.
Everything is a scale. Everything is a spectrum. We're not good or bad.
No.
We're not even male or female.
No.
Unless we really, really want to be.
Yeah.
We can be anywhere in between. And most of the time we are.
I think that's a pretty good song.
I think that's a pretty good sum up. To put it super simple also, just listen to others and listen to yourself.
Yeah.
And give that space to understand what others are feeling and what you are also putting out there with your own language. We have reached the end! Oh
Thank you so much for
my
being here.
god, thank you for
So
being
much
here as our
fun.
first guest ever.
Yes.
I'm so happy you invited me. Like, I had so much fun.
Bye bye.
How do you turn it off though?